Oh, hello, I didn't see you there. Mainly because you're not in the room, and it's indeed a good thing that you're not in my room without my knowledge, because that would be trespassing. But anyway, today, you and I are going to edit a video together. Doesn't that sound like fun? Yeah, I didn't think so. So the video in question we're going to be editing is the one that's the most recent one on my channel. It's the Jude Blazeclaw solo. And now you might be thinking, wait, why are we going to edit that video? Isn't that video already edited? Are you a time traveler? Answer to both those questions, yes, it is already up, and no, I am not a time traveler, sadly. However, we can still erase all the progress in the project file and just do it all over again, because the idea from the beginning was to do this before the Blazeclaw solo went up. But I changed my mind regarding it, thought it was a bit stupid, but I've since changed my mind and I'm now deciding to do it. See it as a 40 subscriber special if you wish. I passed that a couple of days ago, and that was indeed pretty cool, so thank you guys for that. But what we're going to do first off is open up Adobe Premiere that I've got down here in my object dock, which doesn't show up on the recording, so to you, that just looked like I summoned Adobe Premiere with my spiritual powers, but sadly that is not the case. So let's go ahead and open Blazeclaw Jude. And as you can see here, everything's already edited together. This video's done. Like the fade outs in there, the music is here. It's all been edited. We don't want that. So we're going to get rid of these two files. Delete, hit yes, we don't want that. Well, actually we do want them, but we're going to import them since this is step by step. So usually the first thing I do when I open up Premiere is I usually open a previous project, save it as a new, save it with a different name, and then import all the files. But since this one already exists, I suppose we skip that step. And I'm doing that mainly so I can keep the same properties in every video. So what we're going to do is we're going to double click this little project box here with the resources, and it's going to take us to our Excelia 2 folder. And it is this one, I think. Open. And we've got the file right here. It's 10 minutes long, so that would be a bit of a drag to watch. So what we're going to do first and foremost is edit this so that it's only the successful take. And the first thing I do before I even start scrubbing through it is lower the volume, because while they're recorded and unedited, these things tend to be quite loud. So 6.9 minus 6.9 is usually fine. It doesn't have to be exactly 6.9. It can be 6.8, 7, 7.2. It doesn't really matter. I just put it at that as a habit. But I've since switched to ArcSoft, so the audio levels might be a bit louder than normal, so I'm going to set it to minus 8.9 instead, just to be on the safe side. And since I know that the successful take is somewhere around 6 minutes in, we're going to jump straight to there, and I'm going to scrub along the footage so I can see if I die in the following minutes. You can hear some lovely stuttering audio, and it does look like this is the successful take. So we scrub on back to here. I could see Mila's face, that means it's the beginning of the fight. Scrub back a little bit more, and somewhere around here. I'm gonna go back roughly to the frame before the arrows show up. Drag it like that, click the empty space, hit delete, and it's back at the beginning. And since this thing is set up from the finished project, I don't need to move it, and this little bar here basically shows Premiere what part of the video you want to be rendered. So I could drag it like this, and only this part would make it in. But we don't want that, we want the actual entire take. Usually this thing would span the entire video, or the duration of whichever project I saved over when I started it. But since we didn't do that this time, it's the same length. So what we've got here is essentially our footage that's already been edited. We don't need to do a whole lot more. The last thing we need to do is make sure the video fades out at the end. And then we are done with the actual video footage. So I like to go forward a couple of frames after the spinning animation starts. I'm going to highlight it. Go into the opacity tab. For whatever reason, the stopwatch is toggled from the start. I don't know why. It's a bit tedious that you have to uncheck it and then check it again, but that's the way it is. jump forward a couple of frames, or a couple of seconds rather. That should be good. Let's take 15, there we go. And fade out to 0. Drag this little marker here. And what we got now, if I were to hit render right now, which I'm not going to do since we're not quite done yet, Premiere would render all of this all the way to where I put this little thingy. Which is what we want, since this is what encompasses the entire video. But we're not done yet. We're also going to add some background music. So I double click here again, go down to my music folder, and I already know what song I want to use, so I'm just going to go down the list. It's pretty far down. It starts with a U, into the Umineko Soldier. What folder? MP3. I used Dead Angle in the actual video, but since this isn't going to be uploaded, I can use whatever song. So let's just go with World End Dominator. That's a good one. We're going to drag this to the second audio track. And now, this thing is going to be incredibly loud, so what I do first, before I do anything else, I lower it by quite a bit. I think 14.9 is usually the value I go with when it's an MP3 file. If I snag audio from, say, a YouTube video, if I don't have the actual song on my computer beforehand, 11.9 is usually fine. And when I do that, I also have to go and see where the song starts. Luckily, since this is an MP3 file, it starts pretty early on. It starts roughly 2 frames in, but I'm still gonna delete that empty space. If this had been a YouTube video, I might have had to scroll all the way over here before the song starts. And we don't want that, that looks a bit awkward. But let's just see how the audio levels stack up. Let's see if we have to edit them a bit more. I also forgot to toggle the audio for the actual game track, so let's do that and let's start over.
Looks like someone's not playing fair. He doesn't look so cuddly.
See? Didn't I tell you?
Shut up. Come on, let's do this.
Not here! Fall!
Sounds pretty good. Nothing's really too loud, nothing's too quiet, I don't think. I think it's pretty balanced. And if the overall video is too loud, you can at least lower the volume when you're watching it on YouTube. And it's always better to have a video that's too loud than have a video that's too quiet. It's a lot easier to decrease volume than it is to increase it. So what we got here is essentially a finished video. All we need to do is fade out the music at the end, and then we are going to be done. Well, with the actual video. There's still the thumbnail, but we'll get to that. That's the next step. So what we want to do is toggle the output here at the levels value, drag it all the way over to the end. 15:15, that's the exact frame the video ends. I like to put it the end of the audio a couple of frames earlier. Otherwise, for whatever reason, Premiere is a bit picky when it comes to sound for whatever reason. So I usually put it a couple of frames earlier, just to make sure that the song has time to fade out completely. And we're just gonna drag it all the way down to minus 287.5 decibels, which is pretty quiet. Usually, this time Premiere played fair and actually put down a keyframe. Usually I will have to click this button and add a keyframe manually, because sometimes it won't place them for whatever reason. That might just be a problem with my version of Premiere. But that's never, what's the word I'm looking for? Nevertheless, that's a problem I have to deal with sometimes. It's not too tedious or something. At least the program doesn't crash all that often. It does happen, and it's very annoying when it does. Now, however, we are actually done with the video, and I'm going to show you what happens if I try to export it when I'm over here. So I've highlighted effect controls, and I go into File, Export, and the media option isn't showing. If this happens, all you need to do is click on the sequence down here. Click on the sequence you want to render. If you got multiple sequences up, just click on the one you want to render out. Go into Export, Media, and now we can select it. So we'll click that. And we're going to wait for it to pop up. Here we go. it's going to be quite a big video, quite a big file rather, since it's a rather long video. So we are not going to edit it. We're not going to render it because that would take, it would simply take too long for this thing to render out. So what we're going to do, we're just going to hit the X up here, and we can actually close Premiere too because we're done with it. And the next part is opening up Photoshop, which I'm also not summoning with my magical powers. That's still in the object dock down there. And we're going to make ourselves a thumbnail. It's going to take a while to load. So what we're going to do in the meantime is I click down here, go to computer, open up, oh, and then it pops up, cool. Go into YouTube. We're going to find, I think I already got a screenshot that I used for the thumbnail, but we're going to delete that and snag a new one. So we go into the file I used, audio's already been muted, so we don't have to deal with that. Jump forward to somewhere in the finished take, maybe, oh, that looks pretty good. So let's take that one, file, save image, let's save it in the Tails Off folder. It's been saved, close. Go back here, we can just drag it into Photoshop, and there we go. Now we're not done, of course. We're gonna go into Open Recent and open thumb.psd, which is the template I use for my thumbnails. Of course, it's gonna take a while to load. Oh, didn't even go to the end of the meter. That's cool. Hit Control A, Control C to copy the entire image. We're on the correct layer since we don't want to put it here because then the little thingy here disappears. So we always want to be on the black layer. Hit Control V, boom, there we are. Now we just need to find the game. Is this Graces F? No, it's not Vesperia either. Ah, it's Exilia 2. This is a new version of the faces I'm working on. It's not quite done yet. So we're just going to go into Exilia 2, and since this is a Jude solo, we're going to make that layer visible. And there we go, that's all we need to do. Thankfully this is all set up so it's as easy as possible, or rather it's as quick as possible, to make a thumbnail. I usually make the thumbnail while the video is uploading or rendering. And that is pretty much it. There's not a whole lot more to the actual process of these things, other than recording them, of course, that's a challenge all on its own. But I'm sure you all know that already if you're into this yourselves. Oh, sorry, burp's coming up. That is going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you around later. Actually, while I've got you here, I'm probably going to stream a bit later today, so if you're interested in that, make sure to keep an eye out on my Twitch channel for when I go live, or you can keep an eye on the YouTube feed when the notification video goes up. Alright, thanks, see ya later.